If coaching programs change lives, who is accountable for the outcomes? Workplace coaching and leadership development programs are now sold as powerful, transformative interventions. They promise better leaders, better culture, better decisions, and in many cases, better lives. They also encourage whole of self-adoption. That promise raises a simple question that is rarely asked. If these programs produce real change, who is accountable for all the outcomes, not just the ones the organization likes? This is not a philosophical question. It is a governance one. Coaching is treated as harmless, yet sold as powerful. Organizations routinely describe coaching programs as transformational, identity shaping, whole person development, applicable beyond work. At the same time, they treat them as if they are benign add-ons, like training in Excel or presentation skills. Those two positions cannot both be true. If coaching frameworks genuinely alter how people interpret reality, relationships, values, and self-concept, then they are not neutral tools. They are psychosocial interventions. And psychosocial interventions carry responsibility. The accountability gap. In Australia, employers have a legal duty to manage psychosocial risk under WHS frameworks overseen by bodies such as Safe Work Australia. That duty includes preventing foreseeable psychological harm, not just inside the workplace but arising because of workplace systems. Yet coaching and leadership frameworks largely escape scrutiny because they sit in a grey zone. Not therapy, not regulated psychology, not clinically assessed, not independently evaluated. They use the language of human behavior while avoiding the accountability that normally comes with it. Everyone is treated as the same, and that is the first failure. Coaching programs typically assume a standardized participant. There is no meaningful screening for psychological vulnerability, identity instability, high suggestibility, history of over-identification with belief systems, current stress, crisis, or relational fragility. Participants are treated as interchangeable units of insight. That is not how real humans work. Some people will naturally hold frameworks lightly, apply them selectively, and discard what does not fit. Others will internalize them deeply, especially when the framework offers certainty, explains discomfort as growth, frames resistance as unconsciousness, moralizes change as courage. These people are not defective. They are human. The system does not account for that difference. Frameworks are not neutral. They are closed systems. Most modern coaching programs are not collections of optional tools. They are internally coherent frameworks. They define the problem, define the solution, define progress, define resistance, define success. Partial adoption is quietly discouraged. Full embodiment is rewarded. When someone applies the framework everywhere, including to intimate relationships, this is rarely flagged as risk. It is framed as depth. That is not accidental. That is how frameworks sustain themselves. Who should be accountable? Accountability does not float. It sits with specific roles. The program sponsor. Ultimate responsibility lies with the individual who brings the program into the organization. That person is responsible for due diligence, understanding the model being introduced, assessing risk, not just appeal, separating personal alignment from organizational safety. When a sponsor selects a program because it aligns with their worldview, rather than because it has independent safeguards, that is a red flag. Alignment is not a substitute for governance. If that sponsor later praises personal fallout as proof the program works, responsibility is no longer ambiguous. It is personal. The organization. Once adopted, the organization becomes complicit. If leadership rewards embodiment, praises radical personal change, ignores relational fallout, fails to ask what happens outside work, then the organization is endorsing the spillover, whether it admits it or not. You cannot claim whole person development and then disown whole person consequences. The provider. Coaching organizations often position themselves as human behavior experts. Expertise carries responsibility. If a provider does not screen for vulnerability, does not warn about over-application, does not set boundaries around private relationships, does not monitor harm, then claims of expertise ring hollow. Industry bodies like the International Coaching Federation offer ethical guidelines, not enforceable safeguards. That is not oversight. It is self-regulation. Managers who become pseudotherapists. When managers use coaching language to process employees' intimate lives, marriages, or identity crises, they cross a line. They are not neutral listeners. They are authority figures. They are part of the system that validated the framework. That is not support. It is influence. Why personal choice is not a defense. It is always tempting to retreat to individual responsibility. She chose. She engaged. She applied it. That framing ignores power, endorsement, and reward structures. When a workplace introduces a worldview, validates its application beyond work, praises outcomes that align with it, fails to challenge harm, choice is no longer isolated. It is shaped. That does not remove agency, but it does create responsibility upstream. The question organizations avoid. The real question is not whether coaching can help. It is this. If a workplace program contributes to the breakdown of a long-term relationship, identity destabilization, or psychological harm, who owns that outcome? Right now, the answer is no one. That is not sustainable. Until this changes. Until coaching programs are treated as psychosocial interventions rather than cultural accessories, this pattern will continue. The most conscientious participants will absorb the framework most deeply. Their outcomes will be used as proof of success. The damage will be reframed as growth, and the system will walk away clean. If organizations want the benefits of transformational programs, they need to accept the responsibility that comes with transformation. Anything less is not leadership. It is abdication.